folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic here with the season finale of Philosophy Friday. Next week, Let's Do a Brew comes back for Season 2. This week on Philosophy Friday, we're going to be putting our tenets of Deck Building 101 into practical example. I'll be walking through my process of implementing everything that we've talked about and coming out of this with a full 100-card list. But before we get started, I wanted to once again remind everybody that if you enjoy our content, our tune-ups, Philosophy Fridays, or Let's Do a Brews, consider supporting us on Patreon. We have fantastic goodies for our patrons, including patron-only videos, exclusive questionnaires, and for some, front-of-the-line tune-up access. If you do want to support this channel, check us out at patreon.com/CMDRmechanic. Now, putting together everything that we've learned in this season of Philosophy Friday, I asked my followers on Twitter which commander they'd like to see me build, and people requested Slimefoot the Stowaway, an uncommon Golgari commander that is right up my alley. Slimefoot is an interesting commander. They're a mana sink with a repeatable effect, much like Thrasios Triton Hero, which I covered in our video on Advantage. That means Slimefoot doesn't need to necessarily make the most efficient use of our mana every turn, because you have something to spend that leftover mana on. In addition to being a value engine in the command zone, Slimefoot is a win condition, draining opponents every time a Saproling dies. This gives us an immediate first line to winning. Make lots of Saprolings and make sure we can kill them off. This gets the mind spinning right away. Do I go Aristocrats and slowly bleed my opponents? Do I go combo and generate infinite mana to make infinite tokens? Or do I go wide and try and win with a Saproling army? Let's keep these win conditions in the back of our mind while we're building the deck. First, let's look at the basics. Remember this chart from Deck Building 101? We'll want to start with 35 lands, 7 ramp, 10 draw spells, and 12 pieces of interaction. Now let's block in 35 lands and revisit that at the end. Keep at least those 35 spots available. Never compromise on your land counts. The first essential category we want to consider is ramp. We want at least 7 pieces. We're in green, so we can very easily include mana dorks. But is there anything specific to the deck we'd want to include? Well, Slimefoot costs 3, so in order to power them out, as they're the crux of our game plan, we want as many 1-mana ramp pieces as possible. Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, Elves of Deep Shadow, they'll all be key players here. We can't forget classics like Sol Ring, and depending on how high you want to push the budget or power level, we can look at Chrome Mox or Mana Crypt too. For this build, I'm going to choose to keep things a little more reasonable on the budget side. For mana production from lands, I typically recommend the Urborg Cabal Coffers combo. Slimefoot can always make use of big mana. But again, if we're trying to keep things a little more affordable, you can skip them. They aren't necessary. Altars, on the other hand, are going to be big benefits here since we're going to be making tokens. Ashnod's Altar, in particular, is both a combo piece and a mana engine, checking 2 boxes, and that makes it rank much higher on our evaluation checklist. Next on the crucial category list is card draw. Green has some good options here, from low to the ground but pricey cards like Sylvan Library, through to cards that lean into sacrifice and go wide strategies, like Fecundity, Shamanic Revelation, and Orin Frostfang. Black also has some amazing options too. Necropotence is a classic, but again, pretty pricey. Phyrexian Arena is an option, but takes a while to return value, and we can't control when or how often we get the card. But Priest of Forgotten Gods and Smothering Abomination are perfect for a deck where we're going to be sacrificing creatures. And of course, if we're making 1/1s, Skull Clamp becomes a house. Interaction is our next bucket. And in Golgari, we're pretty spoiled. We can deal with every kind of permanent very effectively. We have cards like Abrupt Decay, Putrefy, and Beast Within, all in our grasp. We have efficient single target removal like Naturalize or Go for the Throat, and amazing board wipes from pricey like Toxic Deluge through to expensive, mana-wise, like Decree of Pain. With those categories covered, we get into the meat of the deck, our options. So let's revisit how we're winning. We can go wide with tokens as an option, or an aristocrat win through bleeding out opponents. Fantastic. Oh, Slimefoot also says deals damage, right? Not just life loss? That gives me an idea. How about Infect? If we can make enough Saprolings and give Slimefoot Infect, we only need to deal 10 damage to our opponents rather than 40. That's pretty sneaky. So in that case, Grafted Exoskeleton, Phyresis, and Tainted Strike should be included in the deck as ways to give Slimefoot Infect. We could include Triumph of the Hordes as well, since it helps both our Go Wide strategy and our Infect strategy. Again, 2 buckets, 1 card. And maybe our Go Wide strategy involves making these little Saprolings a bit bigger. Putting counters on them is helpful, which means we have more reason to include Proliferate in the deck. Why don't we include Mazarek, Crawl Death Priest, and Bloodspore Thurnax in the deck? Both make our creatures bigger and care about sacrificing effects. That's synergy across all of our strategies. We'll need efficient ways of making a lot of Saprolings, since all of our strategies rely on lots of little bodies. Michaeloth and Tendershoot Dryad both make plenty of Saprolings, with Michaeloth helping our sacrifice strategy and Tendershoot helping our Go Wide strategy. More synergies. Now we've got a deck shaping up here. I'll fill in the gaps later, but let's circle back to lands. We talked about counters and Proliferate. If we're leaning into Infect strategies and token strategies and counter strategies, Karn's Bastion does that on a land, which is handy. Phyrexian Tower is a great way to use our dorks to ramp. And of course, Bojuka Bog is necessary graveyard removal that needs to be in all black decks. And maybe we want to include Oran Reef the Vastwood too. If we're able to make a bunch of tokens at once, like the upkeep trigger on a Michaeloth, or by generating a lot of mana and pumping it into Slimefoot's ability, doubling their power is pretty amazing. Plus, you can proliferate those counters too. Synergies! So here's our deck. I've kept it reasonable and shied away from big, expensive cards while still giving the deck teeth. Looking at the curve, we may want to adjust our land slightly, but I'm confident that this deck can put in work. Now that you've seen a practical application of our Deck Building 101 series, I would love to hear from you as to what you've put into effect into your deck building. Have you taken this advice and updated any of your decks or built any new decks? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to see how you've taken this advice into practical application. Next week, we'll be returning with Let's Do a Brew with more special guests. If you want more Philosophy Friday, let me know what kind of topics you'd like to hear in the description below, what you'd like me to cover next season. I love this series and I know you do too. I'm looking forward to our next run. Until next time, folks, good luck and have fun. All advice in this video is advice only. Commander is about having fun your way. Don't let anybody tell you how to play EDH.